welcome back to the channel. We are here today to remind ourselves that we are halfway through the Lenten season. This is a period we reflect on our lives through prayer, fasting and almsgiving to form ourselves and journey with Christ through the way of the cross, so that at Easter we will rise with him and then become glorious as he is. Our Holy Father Pope Francis sent us a Lenten message. Let us take time to remind ourselves of the message, which was taken from Paul's letter to Galatians, chapter 6, verses 9 to 10, which reads, "Let us not grow tired of doing good, for in due time we shall reap our harvest, if we do not give up. So then, while we have the opportunity, let us do good to all." Now let's take time to go through the summary of the message of the Holy Father. As the theme goes, let us not grow tired of doing good, for in due time we shall reap our harvest, if we do not give up. So then, while we have the opportunity, let us do good to Galatians chapter 6 verses 9 to 10. Lent is a favorable time for personal and community renewal, as it leads us to the Paschal mystery of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. All too often in our lives, greed, pride, and the desire to possess, accumulate, and consume have the upper hand. Lent invites us to conversion, to a change in mindset, so that life's truth and beauty may be found, not so much in possessing as in giving, not so much in accumulating as in sowing and sharing goodness. We are called to respond to God's gift by accepting His word, and regular listening to the word of God makes us open, docile to His working, and we bear fruit in our lives. This brings us great joy and makes us become God's co-workers. We are called upon to sow seeds of goodness, and the first fruit of the goodness we sow appears in ourselves. In God, no act of love, no matter how small, will ever be lost. Just as we recognize a tree by its fruit, so a life full of good deeds radiates light and carries the fragrance of Christ to the world. Sowing goodness for the benefit of others frees us from narrow self-interest, infuses our action with gratuitousness, and makes us part of the magnificent horizon of God's benevolent plan. The Word of God broadens and elevates our vision. It tells us that the real harvest is eschatological, the harvest of the last undying day. The Lenten season calls us to place our faith and hope in the Lord, since only if we fix our gaze on the risen Christ, we will never grow tired of doing good. We need to pray because we need God. Thinking that we need nothing other than ourselves is a dangerous illusion. No one attains salvation alone, since we are all in the same boat amid the storms of history, and certainly no one reaches salvation without God. Let us not grow tired of asking for forgiveness in the sacrament of penance and reconciliation, knowing that God is never tired of forgiving. Let us not grow tired of fighting concupiscence, that weakness which induces to selfishness and all evil, and find in the course of history a variety of ways to lure men and women into sin. Addiction to the digital media impoverishes human relationships. Lent is a favorable time to resist this temptation and cultivate a more integral form of human communication in person. Let us not grow tired of doing good in active charity towards our neighbors. May we practice almsgiving by giving joyfully. Lent is a favorable time to seek out and not to avoid those in need, to reach out and not to ignore those who need a sympathetic ear and a good word, to visit and not to abandon those who are lonely. Goodness, together with love, justice, and solidarity are not achieved once and for all. They have to be realized each day. If we fall, let us stretch out our hand to the Father, who always lifts us up. If we are lost, if we are misled by the enticement of the evil one, let us not hesitate to return to God, who is generous in forgiving. In this season of conversion, sustained by God's grace and by the communion of the church. In this season of conversion, sustained by God's grace and by the communion of the church, let us not grow tired of doing good. The soil is prepared by fasting, watered by prayer, and enriched by charity. Let us believe firmly that if we do not give up, we shall reap our harvest in due time, and that with the gift of perseverance, we shall obtain what was promised for our salvation and the salvation of others. The summary of the summary is the word taken from Paul's letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verses 9 to 10. Let us not grow tired of doing good, for in due time we shall reap our harvest, if we do not give up. So then, while we have the opportunity, let us do good to all. Dear friends of Christ, let us not grow weary of doing good. Let us not hesitate to pray and fast. Let us remember that when it gets tough, God is with us. I am a friend of Christ. You are a friend of Christ, and together we are friends of